uh, throw things at you that you need to consider. Today's question is, what was the last money mistake that you made, and why did you make that money mistake? So what was the last money mistake you made, and why did you make that mistake? And this is an interesting question to dive into also, because most of the time people are going to say their money mistake was some sort of spending mistake, and you spent money in some way that you really shouldn't have done. But I want you to think a little deeper, because you're going to tend to think it's a spending mistake, but some of your mistakes are also the fact that you did not spend money. And then let's expand that a little more from the word spend. You did not take a risk of some sort. You did not make an investment of some kind. You did not put your money to better use. And so it's not always spend in terms of you regret buying something, but usually that's coupled with the reason, and that reason is because you know that you could have done something better, something smarter with that. And that thing that you realize you could have made a wiser decision, usually it comes to your consciousness far later, well after the spending has occurred. So you have already put those resources, those dollars into motion for some other reason, be it a car, be it a house, be it some fun, be it some food, just some drug or whatever it is, something that is of lesser value than what you have identified later. At a later date, you identify that, I could have used that money for this purpose instead. And so that's the mistake that you recognize that you have made. And so then the second part of this question, and I'm going to restate the question: what was the last money mistake that you made? Part two of that is, and why did you make it? Because the money problem is one issue, but at the root of that mistake is the why you made that mistake. Now, there's where we really gonna dive into, the financial planning decisions, the mindset of you as an individual, and how you were raised and things like that, because those are the things that become the factor as to why you made that decision. So think about it. Why did you make that mistake? And so we need to consider, what about the situation caused you to use money in a less than ideal fashion? So what is it about that situation? So now we diving into financial behavior, investor behavior, financial psychology. And so usually it's factors around the situation that cause you to make the bad decision. So factors around the situation could be simple as, you was in a shopping mall that you usually don't go into. You was in there with a friend you're not usually with. So you have different types of pressures to to make a statement as to, here is my value. And that way you make that statement to this person who you're not usually with in these surroundings. The way you make that statement of self-worth and value is by spending money in here to show in some way, whether to yourself or to your friend, it show that, I am a person who, if I so desire to enjoy some of these items that are for sale here, these fine garments, these fine jewels, and these impressive items of footwear. You know, if I should be able to enjoy those at any moment's notice, and therefore I'm going to do it. And so that is what puts you into an economic situation, a bad credit situation, spending beyond your means type of situation. So circumstance. So there's always something underlying the money mistake. There's something there that made you do that. There's something about the circumstance, the time of the month, the time of the year, the circumstance that led you to this mall. You know, the breakup had you wandering around with nothing to do. You know, usually you wouldn't even have been walking through this mall because you would have been with your significant other. Since you broke up with this person and now you're feeling bad about it, you just wandering around with nothing to do. Hey, that's a circumstance that could lead you to make money mistakes. So the reason I'm diving into that is just to get you to understand that the money mistakes we make have consequences, but they also have circumstances that led to them. They have situations that if you become conscious of them and you understand that, oh, you know what, every time this circumstance happens to me, I make these choices which lead to these poor financial circumstances, bad money mistakes. And so just being conscious of it will let you know, oh, don't do that. Don't just go on a ice cream eating binge, you know, because this type of ice cream, you know, you buy too much of it. Whatever it is that takes you outside your budget. And so it's usually it's either a circumstance that leads you to this bad money decision, a person who leads you to this bad money decision, an emotional state that leads you to this bad money decision, and you need to identify the action items, the steps that you can take, the things you can do to help prevent you from falling into that trap again, prevent that from happening to you over and over again. At least when you identify the circumstance, identify the poor financial decision, the money mistake you made, then try to backtrack and take a look at the circumstances that you were in, the physical surroundings, the emotional circumstances you were in, the people you were with, the economic situation you were in at that time, your living situation, your working situation, your entrepreneurial situation, your whatever it is. Just take a look at it. Even down to, you know, was your house messy at that time? You know, was your desk messy at that time? You know, living in a mess will have you going in chaos. And, you know, and I can attest to that fact that is true. You know, the research shows it. And, you know, I tried to track it and I recognize it as a factor. And so now when I see my desk getting too crowded and my place getting too messy, I know something's going on. Some situation is frustrating me that I think I can't, it's a hurdle I think I can't get past. And I try to, you know, narrow it down. What is it that's bothering me like this? Because I got a lot of things going on at all times. And so, you know, the thing is that one hurdle will stop all of them. Will throw the monkey wrench into all those other things you got going on. So you got to track it down and figure, man, what is it that's bothering me? You know, it's this big project you got, and it's starting to feel like, you know, well, this is just how I used to read, how I look at it. Sometimes it's a project I got going on, and then with the clutter, it's a mental chaos that's going on, and that project starts to feel like, you know what? I think that was me biting off more than I can chew. That was just me thinking too big. That was just me thinking I'm a little bit bigger and badder than I am. That was just me, jumping ahead of myself. That was just me putting too many irons in the fire. And but yet the other side of me is telling me, no, you just need to, to get a hold of this project and take it a little more seriously and get the process together. And when I do those things, the clutter clears up. I clean up my desk. I clean up the room. I clean up the car. Literally, I get all the trash out. Some stings or candy wrappers or something, whatever it is I had, receipts and things. I just toss it in the back. Well, that clutter around you just builds chaos. This is just giving you some of the for instances. Those are the for instances that I notice about myself that occur. And when those things occur, they lead to failures in other areas. And some of those failures are bad money decisions. And sometimes they're disguised as good financial decisions, but you didn't do the analysis enough. So you took it half-heartedly and thought your ambition was enough, but it's not. So it may be a good move, but you didn't give it enough strength, enough energy, enough effort, and so it turned your wise financial decision into a bad money move. And so those are just some of the things I want you to think about with the question, what is the question? What was the last money mistake that you made, and why did you make that mistake? Think about it, write it down, contemplate it. Send me an email or something if you want to talk about it further. I'll put my email information on the screen. Thanks for listening. We'll holler.